Oh yeah, look at that, another Star Wars video. So yeah, as I was really ruminating about the whole reaction to The Rise of Skywalker, which was inevitable, which I already saw coming 2 years ago, that was going to become controversial yet a fucking again for however many fucking times since not even The Phantom Menace, Return of the Jedi too, because there were a lot of problems people had with Return of the Jedi just as much as they did with this movie, along with many other movies. More so because the Return of the Jedi, much like the Rise of Skywalker, was played safe. I mean, that's pretty common with finales. I mean, when you are wrapping up a storyline, it is kind of sort of justified that you would play it safe. That's not to say that it's a bad idea to take chances and risks, but when you try to defy or be an absolute contrarian to what the previous director had going for the previous film, then things are not going to quite end well for you in the long run. But that does go without saying. Notice how when people complained that the prequels were too different, Star Wars fans for years harassed George Lucas to the point where George Lucas didn't want anything to do with Star Wars anymore, so he sold the franchise to Disney. Disney rebooted the franchise by producing The Force Awakens, which was respectfully a tribute to not even just A New Hope. If you watch E.C. Henry's video on The Force Awakens, it's actually a creative remix of all three original films. A New Hope, it's the beginning of The Force Awakens echoes A New Hope. The middle echoes the second half of Empire Strikes Back. And you could say that the final battle echoes A New Hope, but it kind of more so in a way echoes Return of the Jedi, because if you notice if you look a little harder into The Force Awakens, two Force sensitive users are fighting against each other on a planet killing space station, or planet killing planet, or what have you, or system killing planet for the case of Starkiller Base. Luke and Vader on Death Star 2, and Rey and Kylo Ren on Starkiller Base, while it was bound to be blown to smithereens. So then they escape in the last second in either the Tidarium or Millennium Falcon, while the protagonist carries the wounded ally or dead ally on their back. For the case of Luke, it was his father, Anakin, and for the case of Rey and Chewie, it was Finn. Albeit Finn did survive the next two films. Spoiler alert. So yeah, there's that. And then in The Last Jedi, it was barely anything like Empire Strikes Back. People will only recap anything that's supposedly similar to Empire Strikes Back visually, like the throne room with Snoke showing Rey all the resistance transports being completely slowly decimated, as a way of seducing either Rey or Luke to the dark side, like how the Emperor is showing the final destruction of the rebellion fleet as a way of seducing Luke to the dark side, and then they go back to the beginning of The Empire Strikes Back at the end of The Last Jedi. So in terms of plot points, The Last Jedi is completely different. And when you look at The Rise of Skywalker, I won't spoil too much because I haven't gotten to my review yet. Barely any of it retreads Return of the Jedi. There's like only 4 things I could tell you that are supposed rehashes, or parallels to Return of the Jedi, or 5. If you want to know what they are, you could just ask me what they are in the comment section, because I'd rather not spoil it here. I'd rather wait till I get to my review. A lot of people are upset that, for example, a lot of people were upset that The Force Awakens took too much from the original trilogy. Now they're upset that the Last Jedi changed too much of the Star Wars formula, and now they're still upset for The Rise of Skywalker being its own unique thing. If anything, if you guys ask me, The Rise of Skywalker is a combination of both risky and safe. It doesn't rehash anything from the original trilogy, but at the same time, it keeps a lot of things fresh. But at the same time, it kind of felt too much like an apology towards the people that hate the Last Jedi, and which leads me to my next point. If you guys hated The Rise of Skywalker so much for being played too safe, or for certain cases too bold, then why did you hate The Force Awakens for tributing the original trilogy in the first place? Why did you hate the Last Jedi for taking a lot of risks in the first place? They introduce new force abilities in all three said movies, yet you still give it crap. They introduce new vehicles, yet you still give it crap. Like, for instance, the Sith Eternal was felt pretty fresh, and the fact that they didn't need to build some huge planet killing machine for The Rise of Skywalker, but instead had it as the Star Destroyers was pretty neat. Although it was frustratingly safe, but at the same time, it's still better than a large space station killing machine. But here's one example of why Star Wars fans don't seem to understand what they want. You see, the beginning of The Force Awakens, a lot of people had so many theories about who Rey is. Is Rey the daughter of Luke? Is Rey a Kenobi? Is Rey a Solo? Because The Force Awakens was sprinkled with a lot of hints of who Rey was, and then Rian Johnson says, nope, fuck that, Rey is a nobody. And I actually liked the fact that Rey was a nobody. I actually liked the fact that the sequel trilogy could have the strong potential to have a stronger message than the original trilogy, because with Luke Skywalker being the son of Vader, that suggests that he was a nobody that came from a somebody. And then people got all up in arms about that, and now people are getting all up in arms about the reveal of Rey's true parentage and lineage. It's like, if you didn't like the outcome of Rey's lineage reveal in The Rise of Skywalker, then why were you all up in arms about The Last Jedi not explaining Rey's parents enough? Furthermore, why were you all up in arms for the soft reboot of The Force Awakens after you begged Disney so much to make it feel like Star Wars again? And that also begs the question, what does feeling like Star Wars, what's your definition of feeling like Star Wars? Because it just leaves, it hurts my brain like all hell. Because that sentence sounds so damn vague to me, because there's so many definitions of this feels like Star Wars that I can't even boil down to what you guys are even talking about. What the hell does it mean to feel like Star Wars to you guys? And a lot of people are saying that we never asked for certain material, that we never asked for the unnecessary war movie that is Rogue One, we never asked for feminist appeasing sequel trilogy or a Han Solo anthology film. Well, to be fair, I didn't really like the Han Solo movie all that much. We want something that the fans want, like a Darth Vader spin-off film or a trilogy about the Old Republic. Fuck this fan service. First of all, do you realize how ironic it sounds when you give The Force Awakens shit for fan service, yet beg for more fan service to be shoved down your throat? Besides, you have 6 movies that center around Darth Vader. Why do you need a spin-off film to feel satisfied with Darth Vader's story arc? Hasn't he already been fleshed out enough? Like, why do you beg Disney to give you more of the same thing, yet still ask for more? What does that serve? What does a Darth Vader spin-off film or a Obi-Wan Kenobi spin-off film serve other than to appease to fans that only want screen time of him rather than to have an actual compelling story that is The Last Jedi, The Force Awakens, and The Rise of Skywalker. Granted, they really do have problems that are very hard to ignore, but granted that a lot of stuff like Star Killer Base felt really tacked on, but hey, they still felt fresh. They still felt new and refreshing to me. It felt like I was in a new world when I saw the sequel trilogy for the very first time. Especially The Last Jedi. You can't tell me that there's a single movie out there that The Last Jedi retreaded from other than its imagery of the Hoth battle from Empire Strikes Back and the throne room from Return of the Jedi. You can only say that The Last Jedi is supposedly a rehash visually rather than its plot points. I mean, and if you look at The Rise of Skywalker, it's pretty much neither bold nor derivative or banal, for lack of a better term. It's about as in the gray area as one could ever imagine. It's like very well into the gray area, yet Star Wars fans are still up in arms. The Rise of Skywalker is pretty much the most one of the most refreshing Star Wars films I've ever seen in my life. Granted, there were a lot of hand-fisted moments and unnecessary comical moments that kind of made my skin crawl. It made me facepalm a little, but that's not enough for me to get on the toxic level of The Last Jedi hate mongers. I'm not gonna sink down to their level. No fucking way. No fucking way. I'm not gonna stoop to the level they've been stooping to for years. Because that is not the Jedi way. You guys know who you are. Like, and also, on the topic of Old Republic, if the Old Republic trilogy were to be released, I guarantee you, at the bottom of my heart, a lot of people would be saying that it's fan appeasement to gamers, or that it's nostalgia pandering to supposed low-life gamers. Making a trilogy about the Old Republic would not be any different from the reception The Force Awakens got. Or Rogue One. And honestly, it's getting pretty tedious having to hear the same two-faced reactions over and over and over and over again. It's just proof to me that Star Wars fans don't understand what they want. They update new abilities to the Force. It's like they respect the past a lot, but just update the Force to show to us how strong it really can be. Like, for instance, stopping a bullet mid-air, Force projecting yourself across the galaxy, Force healing, all that stuff. And if you're gonna drone on to the whole controversy of a princess surviving the vacuum of space, don't get me started. If you can excuse the Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan being able to survive the lethal gas on the droid control ship, then I'm pretty sure you can excuse Leia surviving the vacuums of space. I mean, there are a lot of stuff that's unexplained in The Rise of Skywalker, and a lot of stuff that make my skin crawl. That a lot of people that have been criticizing the film for. It's like, towards some people, I'm like, yeah, I do agree with you on that stuff, but conversely, at the same time, If you didn't like any of that stuff in The Rise of Skywalker, then why did you give The Last Jedi grief in the first place? It's absolutely absurd to me. And if you don't even like the idea of the Emperor coming back in The Rise of Skywalker, then don't even support the EU in the first place. You can't support the EU and hate The Rise of Skywalker at the same time. Those two don't go together at all. It doesn't make sense to me. It says a lot about you guys' own integrity when you can't even check your own standards before you criticize such a film that's almost free, that is not as guilty of falsehood as you think it is. Like, seriously, is this really your desperate attempt to grasp at straws? And if you're gonna go on about disrespecting George Lucas's vision, then why did you trash the prequels in the first place? Why did you beg for Star Wars to feel like the original trilogy in the first place? Furthermore, why do you ask for Star Wars to do something new in the first place? Furthermore, why do you trash The Last Jedi for changing up the formula in the first place? Furthermore, why do you hate The Rise of Skywalker for being one of the most balanced films in the history of Star Wars? At this point, I'm kind of wasting my time trying to make sense of Star Wars fans. It's kind of one of those exasperations where I'm like, yeah, I've been dealing with this nonsense for so many years. It's kind of not a surprise that I'm still subjected to this degenerate fan base, because so many Star Wars fans are mentally deficient. Alas, this has become another long-winded rant that I really needed to get off my chest, and a lot more to come. Stay tuned. Hope you guys enjoyed my ramble on these extremely dense Star Wars fans to have the outright temerity to tirade against Disney, all because they have no fucking idea what they want. Hate fan service, yet beg for more fan service. Hate risks, yet tell Disney to make something new or bold. It's the same reactions over and over. They tell Disney to respect the past, yet they continue to respect the past. For example, bringing back the Clone Wars series. They brought back the show, yet people still think that Disney is tarnishing the legacy of Star Wars. Okay, I made my point. I don't need to get any more long-winded. Have a good night, folks.